Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We have another exciting guest as we dive into the world of NFTs and try to understand further development of the metaverse. We have Jesse from Aavegotchi. Jesse, why don't we drop in right away and just tell us a little bit about your background and how we ended up here.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the kind of crypto space personally for most of the last 10 years in some form or another, either just academically curious about Bitcoin and the ramifications of a sovereign currency or smart contracts and Ethereum. That's where I really started to get into, the real possibilities of what we could do with basically programming decentralized permissionless systems. And I always found that extremely interesting. And we look at the problems in the world today and we think about how we're going to solve these. And it seems like in so many cases, there's the institutions we've grown up and been taught to rely on often fall short. And so really it's not about the day trading or something like that. That's just a kind of cream on top to see a fast growing ecosystem. But for me, it was always about the intellectual curiosity of, man, this seems like it could really change the game on so many levels and so many ways. Once you start thinking about aligning incentives for the users of a product and the owners of the product, and I'm talking about like DAOs and decentralized organizations. And so that was kind of where my interest was. And I took a job. I've also been living overseas for the last 10 years, US citizen living in Asia. And ended up doing a lot of bilingual stuff. I speak Mandarin and got to meet a lot of projects that were either coming from the US or Europe that wanted access to Asia. And so I ended up working for ZB Group, an exchange group out of China, and I was doing listings and things like that, due diligence on different projects, and got to know a lot of projects. But the ones that stood out and really shocked me were some of the early NFT projects. And so oftentimes I'd meet these guys and maybe it's at a conference or they'd be referred to me and they wouldn't even have an ERC20 token to list. And yet the conversations that I have with them were far more interesting. And so that really got my imagination going, because I was like, now we're not dealing with just currency being given back to the people, but we're dealing with we're moving into a digital world and we need digital culture without intermediaries. And NFTs seem to be a way where you can prove ownership of a digital object almost like it's tangible, except it's still completely digital and it's in your wallet. And so that's really powerful stuff. And I got really interested and went down that rabbit hole and ended up leaving ZB to go full time and co-found Mintable.app with Zach Burks. He came to me, he was in early stages with that. And I was like, this is amazing. I want to like put all my energy into a product that lets anybody mint an NFT, because this is like early 2018, I suppose. So at that time, there really wasn't a way for anybody to go on and just mint their own NFT. Today, there's so many options to do that. So that was my start. We moved to Singapore, set up here, and then along the way, I got involved with a couple DAOs because, as I mentioned, I love the idea of decentralized governance and these kind of aligned incentives. And so one of the earliest DAOs on Ethereum was Digix DAO. It's kind of like they have a gold stablecoin, and then they have a governance token separate from that coin. And that was the DAO's functioning. But as is the case with so many early models, the Digix DAO did not have a very long lifespan, but I got to be a part of that from start to finish. And so it was the first DAO that voted to self-demolish. So you got that going for it. That was pretty interesting. But the one cool thing that came out of that was I made a proposal to take kind of what I was learning building with Mintable and combine it with a stable coin. So I said, what if you could take, stable coins are kind of boring. What if you could take a gold stablecoin and stake it inside of a rare collectible NFT with some really cool artwork? So we collaborated with a bunch of OG crypto artists, created a bunch of limited edition crypto 3D like crypto coins, and each one has different amounts of DGX gold stablecoins staked directly inside of it. And so that's kind of my first project that was completely myself, and I was just obsessed with this idea of taking on-chain value and wrapping it inside of an NFT. through that process, I kind of came to learn that there was like so much more we could do with that idea. Like gold wasn't really very attractive for a large segment of the Ethereum user base, and there also was liquidity issues with DGX. So DeFi was coming into its own at this point. We did a hackathon with ETH Global, got to know the guys at Aave, Stanny, Jordan, the whole team, and ended up taking second place in that hackathon for a really cool little dApp that would let you point your yield from your tokens at anybody you want. So you could basically like tip or passively support any coder or project or developer in the space that you want, basically anybody with a Ethereum wallet. And we got to know them more, and we kind of pitched. We were like, hey, we're thinking of doing more with this Bullion X gold, value on the NFT idea, but we want to do it with DeFi tokens that generate yield, because that would be a lot more compelling if you had basically an NFT piggy bank that sent a better yield to you than your local bank, and many times over. So they loved it. They were very supportive from the beginning, and we kind of started there with that core concept of a cute little Aave themed ghost with all the various Aave A tokens staked inside of them. So if you have the Aave staked link at a 3% interest rate, you could stake those in and get a little blue Aave ghost. But if you had a USDT one at maybe a 6% interest rate, you could stake those and get a green USDT themed Aave ghost. And so that grew into the Aavegotchi theme. And from there, the project itself is really like, we're running to crypto. If you're into Web3, if you're into smart contracts and dApps, then it's great, because that's what we're doing. And we're not like trying to abstract away the blockchain at all. We're in fact just running to it and being like embrace every cool feature and on-chain experience we can find, and find some way to bring that into Aavegotchi. So we use like Chainlink's random number generator for all the on-chain verified randomness to generate your Aavegotchi's traits. We use something that was innovated by another project called Avastars, where you actually take the visuals of your NFT and store them inside your smart contract. So you don't use an AWS server, you don't put them even on IPFS or some halfway kind of in the middle of the road solution where it's on a secondary chain. In this case, the Aavegotchi lives forever on the mother blockchain. In this case, we're on Polygon network. So you have this really cool experience where your Aavegotchi is going to live in complete form without any missing metadata, without any missing visuals. It's going to be on that blockchain forever, which is very different than so many NFTs today, because if the founder forgets to pay the bills, doesn't pay the rent, AWS turns off the lights on their server, and your NFT is still there, but it's just a piece of metadata pointing to a URL that doesn't host the visual assets anymore. That's going to be a real bummer. And I'm predicting that'll happen a lot more in the future. We're going to see a lot of disappointed NFT owners over the coming years. But that won't be an issue with Aavegotchi, and a very short list of other projects that have embraced this on-chain work. There's a reason it takes extra work, and it doesn't really work for really heavy assets, but for really low weight, like 8 kilobyte Aavegotchis, it totally works. And so that's what we're working on. We're trying to make playable NFTs.
Yeah, there's so many fascinating points here to hit along the way. I guess number one, kind of the idea that the NFT is one of the first really secure. Like, you remember back in the day when you'd have to enter like a digital identification number for like proving that you bought the software or something, or the VIN number on your car. Like, these are kind of the first analogs of digital NFTs. Like, oh, this is the VIN number that represents the ownership of this particular car, the make, the rest of the things that go along with it. I think that this kind of led people to believe that NFTs are limited to collector's items or art, and we've seen this vast expanse into ticketing and into other forms of relationships of like, well, what does a one of one something mean? And it's a lot more There's a lot more potential to it, I think, than I initially understood. That's for sure. The gamification process that you guys are leaning into by using the NFTs for staking, for learning, I think is also really hugely advantageous as well. When you have what seems to be a fairly undereducated, at least financially speaking, youth with very little incentive to learn how to save and
Yeah.
not trade or something like this. In our last conversations, we talked about some of these ideas as well. But part of what I think is interesting here, Jesse, is the gamification of not just in investing and the playing to earn aspects like Axie's brought to the table.
Mhm.
What is the future of Aavegotchi look like in your mind?
Right. So I think our team is always very iterative, and that's why we've seen, things that are built in a day typically are really, the result is they don't last and they're not beautiful as compared to something that develops slowly over time in a lot of iterations. You can look at a suburban house that goes up in a shorter, relatively short amount of time versus something that maybe is multi-generational and has been built over many years. You see it all over in nature. And so we keep that kind of principle in the back of our head. And I always have, and I always think about, we've developed Aavegotchi over a year. And what I described to you at the beginning was that first core concept of NFT piggy bank. And then the next, it's like an onion growing. And then the next layer was, well, we can generate the traits using this powerful tool that Chainlink developed. And then the next was, well, staking is a really big thing now. And we want to reward our users for their loyalty because the game's not live yet, but they're already riding with us. And the game's got 5 months to go. So we're going to let them stake and make some kind of loyalty point system called Friends, and do some randomized raffles so they can start winning vouchers for NFTs that are coming in the future. And this was kind of it was very progressive. It was like, yeah, we had a roadmap, but it was also like we were flexible and responding to what we saw in the space becoming available technology wise. And I think we're going to keep doing that. We have a wonderful roadmap, but it's no rush. It's all at the same time, we're like shipping all the time. And I think the North Star we're pointing at is mass adoption, but we get there because it is earned and because people really want it. And if we don't get there and it's a niche thing, that's okay too. But we're going to go where the technology and where the demand is. And we have a suspicion of what that is. So we think that the metaverse is a word that's thrown around a lot, especially recently. And, you know, it's like a very loaded concept, right? We could spend all day talking about what is the metaverse. And
If you
for
haven't
us,
read Snow Crash, everybody has to read Snow Crash. I believe that is
yes.
the very first time the word metaverse was ever used.
Yeah, when was Snow Crash published? It was like
1990, I think.
yeah, early 90s. And so it's not it's a Ready Player One. These concepts have been around, and dimensions, multi-dimensions, and that's where we're going. But these early stages really are still like you said, it's gamified, it's play to earn. And so we want to create a world called the Gotchiverse. So it's not the metaverse, it's the Gotchiverse. And that's where these avatars that you have 100% ownership of, and they kind of become your digital spirit in a way into this other world. They're your avatar in that other world. And we're not trying to create Ready Player One or something where we see some of these other more ambitious projects trying to create a very high resolution 3D world to mimic real life. Quite the opposite. I think so much of it is we have imaginations. And so some of the most enjoyable experiences are those like top-down RPGs, pixelated 1994's Legend of Zelda, and then you can tell the rest of the story. So for our purposes, we want it browser-based, extremely accessible, and your Aavegotchis can hop in and be social and a little bit of fun competition too. And so that virtual world is coming. I wouldn't say it's a metaverse, but a virtual world within the metaverse, hopefully highly interoperable with some of the other 3D worlds that are being built. but this will be kind of a cool 2D world for you and your Aavegotchi to explore. And we're working hard to scale it and develop it right now. We've grown the team to about 25 full-time, many of which are kind of industry vets from the gaming side, as well as a bunch of Solidity developers. And so it's going to be gamified yield. I like to call it the first DeFi RPG, and we'll see how it goes. So
yeah, there's a few fun points there. You know, number one, I think what's interesting is because a lot of the kind of primary digital natives, the people who remember like the squeaky sounds of a 56 kilobyte, are also the
yeah,
people that have ended up more wealthy in the sector because they were digitally native from the start, like with Atari and all the early bit video games effectively. And I think you see that expressed in the attraction towards pieces like the CryptoPunks, where they're pixelated, they're lower quality 2D, because you have that older generation who was the first digital native alongside like a Pac-Man type of gameplay that are kind of the first adopters of this sector in general. As
yeah,
in comparison with like the Unreal Engine 5, the stuff that Star Atlas is working on, et cetera, which is a highly graphical user interface. Just the gameplay is aimed at that world, like a expansive world. But yeah, again, you see this big adoption of that 2D pixelated version, I think, because of that those first digital natives to the space. The other thing I think that's really interesting too, it's highly undervalued, and it's what the whole sector I think brought to the table was the participation rewards for network growth and effect. Like one of the unique aspects about Bitcoin is that you were rewarded for participating in the network early on. And it's one of the things I
mm,
think that this ecosystem brings to the table. You know, everyone's like, oh, look how much more the CEOs make than the employees. It's like, well, the problem there is Facebook is worth nothing without you. Instagram, Twitter, they're worth nothing without us, right? So why
yeah,
were you never rewarded for the early stage participation in the network growth of each of these platforms? And that's where I think the real, you know, kind of segregation and wealth started to take place, is because we should have been rewarding users with like micro Facebook stock or micro Netflix. Like every time you sign up for a month, you pay an extra $5, you get to own micro portions of a Netflix stock or something like this. So I think the advantages of the technology are to remove that barrier where you should be rewarded for the network effect in any of the platforms that you're participating in, because ultimately you're the reason they're valuable, or you're a part of the reason why they are valuable.
right. It's so true. And network effects, like that's what I guess really what excited me about NFTs at the beginning is kind of what you just described there. There was this, like, I didn't have it well developed, but even at a gut instinct level right away, it was like, this is kind of, you know, if Facebook was like kind of, we're like peasants there, like there's no property rights for us to um get our incentive. Like they can't give it to us because there's no really um no, there's always an intermediary and there's no trustless system to settle everything on. But with Bitcoin and now with some of these other systems, we're able to start thinking about, you know, really powerful social networks and being rewarded for your participation. So um, I know on our level, what we've done in our own small way is just try to, from the very start, align incentives and make sure everybody, if you're an early adopter and the project is successful, then you're going to see direct, you know, a direct relationship with that success. Whether it's the fact that you staked your ghost tokens, and so now you're farming NFTs, right? You win some of the rare NFTs, and or maybe it's just the fact that you joined our bonding curve in the very early days about a year ago, or at any other point. So yeah, crypto unlocks so much potential with that. And then NFTs just add this kind of extra cultural layer on top that's really, I think we're just beginning to see kind of the possibilities of that. Probably everything's going to be an NFT at some point, let's be honest.
Yeah, a high degree of things for sure. I mean, I was kind of imagining the other day that you would be able to take a photo on your phone and you would be able to set the amount of images that were actually held within that photo. So you could take a photo, but there'd only be 10 versions. So I could send out that photo and I would slowly lose the amount of copies that I was handing out as time went on. I agree with you. I
Yes.
think that the technology will really proliferate to a point where it's in most things. I think people have I think people still are massively underestimating the value proposition of digital ownership that's not held by a central governing party, especially because, you know, we were talking about Facebook. There's obvious layers of corruption where Facebook looks like it should have been a public domain based off the conversations and the relationships that were taking place there. But then just as quickly, like, oh, we're a private company, we can just ban and kick you off for whatever we would feel like. And although that's under their rights as a company to do so, the way they earned their public domain was because of us. Now they're in a position of power, and we have basically no rights in that public domain space anymore. It's very degradative for the way like society should evolve together. And again, you know, I think this is where you and I agree on some of the early alignments of what this technology can do for other people in the problems that we're facing, because a lot of those problems can be solved with this technology as long as we're not writing dumb contracts. We're actually writing like smarter or like benevolent contracts or something like this. You know, we end up with a hopefully a better working result because of the removal of the friction and the middlemen and all the nonsense that goes in between. So just the last time we chatted, I know you had talked about maybe taking us over the platform and showing us some of the fun stuff you guys are working on in a more visual form. If you want to go through that now, I think I've given you the ability to host and screen share there too. If you want to go over and share some of the kind of stuff you because I know I know we had talked, and you guys are working on launching the next batch of Aavegotchis effectively that are out there, and maybe just for visual representation, so people get a quick glimpse of the things you find interesting. Having you been here the longest, I think it'll be easier for you to kind of show us around the playground faster than us getting
absolutely. I'm just going to connect here, and if you give me
you have access there already.
Oh, okay, great. Let me pull that up. So we'll take a look at the DApp, and I'm just trying to figure out why it says Brave browser unknown. We'll see if it works. It's not giving me a preview.
Yeah.
It's kind of first time that's happened. 1 second. Apologies.
It's okay. I should have pre-warned you. We talked about it in the last chat, so it was mine.
Yeah, I'm on a new computer here, so I'm having technical difficulties. If I don't get this to work, we can still maybe, I think you could pull up the website maybe easier than me at this point, and I could still talk through it if you want to try that. Because I'm not getting it to work for some weird reason. I think there's a permission I haven't granted or something. I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, you'll have to make me host again though, so I can screen share, I believe. Oh, actually, maybe I can cancel. Maybe I can just stop it. I'm not sure here. Reclaim host. There we go.
Okay. Apologies for that. If you could just try Aavegotchi.com, what you'll see is the landing page, unless you have a MetaMask to hook up. But I think, this is cool. You're on night mode. We have a dark mode and a light mode, so that's kind of fun.
Good. Yeah, I only run in dark mode here.
Hell yeah. So as you see, digital friends for the crypto generation. We're definitely not running away from it. And so this is the landing page you see if you don't have your MetaMask connected. But when you do, it would kind of take you to like an old school, looks like Windows 95 kind of desktop with a bunch of desktop icons or something that references that.
All my information is hiding behind the screen there. There we go.
Just transformed. And now, do you see the connect to Matic button? This is the cool thing. If you've never been on Polygon or AKA Matic network, just by pushing this button, it'll flip your network settings from MetaMask over to Matic. So right now you're looking at the Ethereum version of Aavegotchi.com. And I think if we give it a minute, the network will flip over, and voila, we are at the place where most of the action happens. So this is Aavegotchi.com with Polygon connected. And the cool thing is your first time there, maybe you don't have any Matic, and you don't have to do this right now, but you'll notice at the top, it says you're out of Matic, which is kind of the ETH equivalent for paying gas. And it leads you straight to a faucet that Matic Polygon team supplies. So that's pretty cool.
Wait, so
and
if I
then
click where do I?
at the very top that says you're out of Matic, visit faucet. And I think I haven't done it in a long time, but it would actually give you Matic. Just like 0.1 Matic will get you like 10 transactions. So it's really quite a nice feature.
Okay, well, I'm trusting you're connecting my wallets to these things.
No, this one's legit.
I'm a human.
You're fast at this. That was pretty good.
Wait, what are we looking for? A truck. Okay, more images of trucks. There we go. I should all of it.
Okay. Your balance is 0.001.
Does that work? Did I get it to work?
I don't know.
I gotta click.
Okay,
you gotta click receive. Yeah, there you go. We're figuring out, ladies and gentlemen. This is
a great representation, because one of the number one friction points I get from people is they say, oh, I don't know how to get on Matic Network, and I don't know how to get any Matic coins to do my first transaction.
Right.
Well, you've just showed them in 10 seconds, you did both. So that's pretty cool. In the meantime, we could go back, I guess, to the main site, and just, I'll give you a quick rundown of what Aavegotchi's got going on. If we start on the left, the key button is the play button. That has all the goodies for like your real experience. So if you have an Aavegotchi, it'll be in your My Aavegotchis section. And my portals are like the actual, like, they're like a deck of cards. You buy a portal, and when you do, it would open up and summon 10, you'd see 10 randomly generated Aavegotchis. You get to keep one for yourself. And of the 10, the other 9 evaporate. So it's like a deck of cards, but you only get to keep your favorite card of the 10. If you had Aavegotchis, you'd click on My Aavegotchis and you'd see all their details, all their traits. This is like where you hang out with your Aavegotchi. You can pet it. We have a kinship score that is an on-chain adjustment of like how often you interact with your Aavegotchi. So we have a ton of people that are like getting really attached to their Aavegotchis because they pet them every day. And the kinship scores are going up. So we actually have a leaderboard for that, and people actually earn money just for petting their Aavegotchi. So it's pretty cool. The other cool thing about Aavegotchis is we played around with one of these seldom used standards called the ERC 998. And what that is it allows you to link NFTs together in a kind of train. And so, yeah, my items, these are 1155 NFTs. They're wearables. And you can check them out in the bazaar. So if you go to the bazaar, that's our NFT market. And you can see we've got the portals for sale, the wearables. These are all P2P marketplace. These are all users in the community selling these. And if you have some wearables and you have an Aavegotchi, you can equip it and they link together on chain. So wherever that Aavegotchi goes, if it goes from your wallet to my wallet, all the wearables it's wearing will also go with. So you're actually transferring multiple tokens at once. These are some of our wearables. Everything's denominated in the ghost token. Potions to boost your kinship. Those are pretty much play to earn going forward. You can't, you can buy them here on the market, but any new supply coming in is basically by winning mini games or competitions with your Aavegotchis. So that's the other thing is once you have an Aavegotchi, it's your access to all sorts of different mini games, and eventually the big game I referenced, the Gotchiverse, which we're shooting for Christmas of this year to come out. Okay, this is really cool. If you see the Gotchi, you can see the owner. You see its rarity score is 510. That's pretty good. How do we get that number? Well, we go down and its traits on this bell curve were randomly generated with the Chainlink VRF. So you've got a couple considerations. Its energy, its aggression, spookiness, its brain size, and its eye shape and color. And those will all be randomly generated across from 0 to 100 on this bell curve. And the cool thing is, like, if you're in the middle, basically that's where you don't want to be, just like the famous meme. So if you're on the far left side of the bell curve or the other side of the bell curve, that's perfect. You're going to get the maximum rarity score by being an outlier. Don't be the sheep in the middle.
Don't
Don't be
be top
the
of the Gotchian
50.
bell curve.
Yeah, you just don't want to be there. So, um, so this is a pretty good Aavegotchi. You can visually see it, and that's why it scores 510. That's pretty legit. Um,
And just
yeah.
for curiosity, is this 10 or 1,040 ghost token that costs?
So somebody is listed, yeah, the owner has listed it for that. We're eventually going to add a place where you can make like counter bids and he can accept or decline. But right now, it's kind of a one-way road where the owner puts it up, puts a listing price, and if somebody accepts, they accept, and if they don't, they
So
then it
I
just
want
sits
to
there.
double check just to make sure. So the D on his head, I'm assuming means that there's die staked underneath this Aavegotchi.
Exactly. Yes. So back to the original use case, the staking of a yield generating token, we call it playfully, we call it spirit force. So that's what brings it to life. Like you need some spirit force deposited into the Gotchi or it can't come to life. And so that one I think said it had 26 dies staked inside of it. And that'll grow over time. Yeah. So currently it's at 26 A die. A is for Aave. So yeah, it's gaining every day. Maybe a couple days from now, it'll be 27 A die balance inside the Gotchi. It'll just grow inside the Gotchi
So when
naturally.
if I were to purchase the Gotchi for the ghost, you actually receive the internal tokens behind the.
Yeah. So you're getting the any tokens deposited. You're getting any. This one doesn't have any wearables equipped, but if it had wearables, those would all transfer with it as well.
That's for fun. What's ghost token worth today? Could have asked.
Yeah. I think it's right around $2, give or take. It's it launched on a bonding curve. It has some really interesting tokenomics. It launched on a bonding curve last September, so just about a year. And that launch kicked off at 20 cents. And it's GHST, not because yeah, Ghost is the other Ghost. Ghost with the drop vowel, because dropping vowels is really cool right now.
Right.
So 202 right now.
That's a government health and service tax.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is
So
it costs $2,000 for $26 worth of assets.
yeah, you're the staked amount is kind of the least of the value prop here. There's only 10,000 Aavegotchis in existence today from Haunt 1. So you'll notice there it says Haunt 1. That means it's basically a generation 1. Haunt 2 has 15,000 more Aavegotchis. And we have a really cool thing for the supply of Aavegotchis is controlled absolutely by the Aavegotchi DAO. So if you're a ghost token holder or an Aavegotchi holder, you have voting power and to dictate, to decide whether or not we should increase the supply. So recently the DAO voted to issue a second Haunt because these are so expensive and we want to make them more accessible to more people. So Haunt 2 is here. August 26th to August 29th was like a huge auction of those. And then I foresee, like, as I was saying, as the Gotchiverse grows, we're going to need Haunt 3, Haunt 4, Haunt 5. And each Haunt comes with its own unique, like, rarity eyes. If you get mythical eyes, like this one has Myth Low. So he named his Aavegotchi. He's trying to sell it. You get to name your Aavegotchi. He named it Myth Low because he's pointing out that this Gotchi has really cool eyes that are rarely discovered. And yep, sure enough, on that curve, those are some mythical low eyes if I've ever seen them, that eye shape. So each Haunt gets its own mythical lows and mythical highs.
Cool.
Yeah, there's.
So is the rarity score you're looking for a higher or a lower number?
The rarity score, you want a high number, but the way it arrives at that number is by compositing all those bell curve traits you see below. So if they were all at like the middle at the top of the bell curve, then your rarity score would probably be like 250. You know, it would be like,
look at this. Aggression is not even on the curve anymore. It's off.
he is off.
Not even on the chart.
Now, he's a 108. He's based.
Yeah, right. Not even on the screen anymore here. It's like over in the middle.
So I think that's the wearables. You see he's got a ton of wearables hooked up, and those
Okay.
will actually modify your traits. So it's kind of like another thing we wanted to replicate was real life where, oh yeah, this is a highly decorated Aavegotchi. Now we're looking in what we call its pocket. You can see its wearables and any badges that it's earned. And yeah, you can see a lot of these wearables are +3 to AGG. That's +3 aggression. So the sushi knife is very aggressive. He's got a witchy cloak that's +3 spooky, +1 aggression, little pump goatee.
Yeah.
Um, we collaborated with Little Pump a few months ago. That's a lot of fun.
Nice.
So yeah, he's off the charts. And let's see, how much does he have? His kinship is 192. That's really good. So this owner has been petting his Aavegotchi every day because it starts at 50. So this is a very good relationship they have. I can't believe he's even considering to sell it.
Maybe he's got a few on here. So if I
Yeah.
listen for fun, actually, if I look at the owner's bucket, will it show the rest of their holdings? No.
Maybe if you go through each tab, you might see, like if you check Aavegotchi's, I think you will see, yeah,
Okay.
he's got a few.
Yeah. So he
Oh
owns
yeah,
this one too.
he's
Okay.
a Gotchi whale.
I got you. Whale, got you.
Nice. Yeah,
Cool.
there's definitely a few.
I wish I had
Cool.
found just so we could go further into this playing game process here.
Yeah. Well, just know eventually that there's going to be a ton of virtual world experiences for these all to kind of explore. And but yeah, there's a lot of time you can spend at Aavegotchi.com. That, like you say, there's the DAO, the mini games, the bazaar, NFT market. One cool page is the treasury. So the DAO is doing very well because every time the bonding curve has an interaction, a trade, there's a fee, and the fee goes into the DAO's treasury, not into Pixelcraft Studios, our dev team. And then every time the NFT marketplace has a trade, which we get really good volume, typically the best on Polygon, then there's some that a fee that goes into Pixelcraft as our revenue, but then equal amount goes into the DAO treasury. And so you can see here, my eyes are bad, but yeah, it looks like a 500K ghost in the treasury right now, a little bit over that for the DAO. And the DAO has only put this to works once to date. They voted to add some rewards to a DEX aggregator that launched on Polygon. And that worked out really, really well for everybody because it bootstrapped really deep liquidity for a ghost ETH trading pair on Polygon on their DEXs. And so it'll be interesting to see how the DAO decides to use those funds in the future. But
Fun. Yeah. I think that this style of kind of pixelated original Pac-Man stuff really appeals to those first digital native cultures.
It strips it down too. So you're able to kind of just focus on like the options in front of you as opposed to any polish or distractions or things that are strictly visual. Yeah, we've got a great ambassador program, a whole team heading these. We have over 2,500 ambassadors now at this point, and they've all filled out this type form, and they're worldwide. Some are doing localization for their countries. Some are just forming their own Gotchi gang because they want to have their own guild in the Gotchiverse when it launches. And so it's a really powerful way for the community to reinforce each other and share resources and educational tools. So that's been really, really a successful campaign the last couple of months.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it there, Jesse. Super cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess tell us about this next, you call it Hunt 2, the second batch of these that are coming out.
Yeah, so Haunt 2 starts August 26th and runs through the 29th. It's a 3-day auction to end out the month of August. And the reason we're doing an auction is because the first Haunt of Aavegotchi's dropped in March 10,000 Aavegotchis. They sold out in 60 seconds. You would say that would be a success by most measures. But in our case, we actually did have a problem where we were disappointed and considered it a failure. And that was, okay, we've had the community with us growing together for 6 months, literally helping us write the white paper. They're commenting on our open source Google Doc white paper. Like, it's really a conversation that's happening in real time.
Yeah.
And then we get to the day and, people either have fast internet connections or they don't. And people get lucky or they don't. And so too few people ended up getting, it was like an elevator and not everybody could fit in. And so it just didn't seem fair. And it seemed like a lot of unnecessary FUD and disappointment for too many people. We didn't do any pre-mine. So our team, even I literally didn't get an Aavegotchi on day one. I got locked out. So I was like, this is like not the best way to do an NFT drop. First come, first serve. Like, and yet that seems to be the standard in the space. So we spent a lot of time saying, okay, if and when we do a haunt two, we've got to find a better way. And luckily, my co-founder, Coder Dan, he had participated in something called a bid to earn auction last year on Ethereum. It was a project. It's a project called Cryptographs. They do one of ones of like Ashton Kutcher, Vitalik. They do like a one of one kind of. They draw on a tablet some special sketch, and it's like a one of one thing. And the interesting part was that they would have an auction for this one of one. And if you bid at, say, 5 Ether, and then I came in and bid 10 Ether, then, okay, you commit the capital in real time. So when you get outbid, part of my new larger bid immediately goes to you. Like, you get paid in real time. So the 5 ETH goes back to you plus some cream on top, basically saying thank you for participating and helping with price discovery. And so that's the bid to earn model. It's a team called GBM Auctions that is kind of a proprietary system they've built out, and we licensed it from them to execute our own auction this week. And I think it's going to be so much more fun because it kind of gamifies the whole auction experience. The slogan is literally everybody wins, because you're either going home with an NFT or extra ghost tokens. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, the only way you get wrecked is if you make a bid on something that you don't in your heart truly want to win. Like, make sure whatever you bid, you really want to win. But other than that, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's important to find ways of governance. I think one of the reasons why I like Vitalik so much is just his conversations around ideas like the tragedy of the commons, and you see this in multiple areas too. I mean, it's very, very noticeable in our conversation around Facebook, around Twitter, where these were what were appearing to be digital public good entities that have drastically shifted face and gone the opposite direction. And you're always looking.
And regulators always made room for them to be that too, ironically.
Right, yes.
Lots of protections.
Multiple confounding factors there that do not play in the interests of the commons. And again, I think that's one of the fun parts about this technology is that people are trying to ask those questions of participation and fairness, which no one's asking in the regular ecosystem.
Yeah.
Like, we won't get too political in any of our downsets here, but again, there's just too much necessary information for one thing, and then not enough necessary information for another thing. Just very skewed informational and value communication structures in the way people are rewarded for participating in any form of society. So I really like to see that kind of stuff. The pay to play video games, or this earn to, okay, someone outbid me, I don't just lose my gas. It's not just a failed transaction. There's like a positive network effect for the growth of each of these ideas. I think
it's really interesting that we talk about these two things side by side, because in one way we're talking about cute ghosts as a video game and how to distribute those. And then in another way, we're talking about the system today and all that's broken with it. And you can see it with the social media giants and how they've kind of gotten away from original purpose, and the incentives aren't aligned. And it seems like at first people would say, well, that's two totally different conversations. But here we are, and it's really not, right? Because what we're doing is like a microcosm of what Web3 could be and already is. But if it scales, you know, you asked where we'd be 5 years from now. I hope we have a high functioning DAO that is still a kind of model of how people can collaborate without ever meeting each other face to face, and in a way for some sort of good, whatever they decide that good is. They're working towards it together in a way that kind of wisdom of the crowds makes them better than otherwise would be. And hopefully it's more efficient than, it's proven to be more efficient than the current kind of top-down models we see pretty much everywhere in real life, in meat space.
Yeah. In the body bag world.
Yeah.
Well, Jesse, it's been a pleasure to chat. Do you want to leave us and the Arcane Bear family with a vocal version of all your social media channels where they can find you? They'll be in the links in the description down below, so if you want to click on it. But just because I know there's a lot of listeners too, how to spell Aavegotchi? Where should they look for you? Where should they follow for more information on this?
No, thank you. I don't know why it's late here. When I heard you say vocals, drop some vocals, I thought I was gonna have to start singing. I was like, oh man, you put me on the spot.
Well, I like to ask all my guests their ability to rap at the end of the show. That's really the facts we look for, how much we trust them. Can you rap?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, I have before. We have some awesome Discord parties. I would invite you to come and we could freestyle together. It's always a good time because it's like whenever, wherever the beat's gonna drop. I'm like a one-man Fab Four without the mop top, flashing big rocks, barefoot, no socks, giving you a lesson with no prep and no chalk.
There we go.
You can go all day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
No, we have a lot of fun. Our Discord parties, we have a Halloween party coming up. That'll be our second Halloween party. And it's kind of better than a real life party. So I would say if you're going to join anything, join the Discord. We've got a proper costume contest where you're dressing up your Aavegotchis instead of your real life. So it's a great use case for wearables. And the Discord's where the party's at. And then twitter.com/Aavegotchi, AAVE Gotchi. And yeah, that's pretty much the two big ones. We're on Reddit. We're on pretty much, you know, everywhere you go on the internet, there's a Aavegotchi channel for it. So definitely follow us, check us out. Our Medium blog's updating all the time with the latest news on whether it's the NFT drop or the latest DAO updates on governance. And yeah, hope to see you in the Gotchiverse.
Beautiful. Awesome, Jesse. I had a pleasure chatting with you today. It's fun to go over all this stuff, and we'll stay up to date with you guys. So remember, give us a thumbs up if you like this content. Check out Aavegotchi, follow them on their social media links, join the Discord party. Maybe I'll find me there in Halloween for fun as well. Yeah. And then we'll see you guys again on the next episode. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Ciao.
All right.